We are going to start the next lecture that is about the metallic bonding. फिगर्स में आप लोग देख सकते हैं कि हमारे पास डिफरेंट किस्म की जो वायर्स बनाई जाती है मेटल्स की जो शीट्स होती है, just they are formed metallic bonding. Means different metals they attach with each other by the metallic bond, and sheets and the wires they have been formed. So how metallic bonds are formed? Uh, how metal atoms are held together in the solid metal hold on to their valence electron very weakly. So you can think that maybe they are the positive ions, or the cations floating in a sea of electrons. As you know that in case of metals, they lose electron very easily, and in 1 mole of the metal molecule, there are 6.0 10 raised to 23 atoms of the metal. So when 6.02 10 raised to 23 atoms of metal, they lose electrons. Then we say that there are so many electrons they have been released by the metal, and they form the sea. So when metals they release the electrons, so other side the cations are formed. So these cations they are captured, they are present in between these electrons which are floating. So we say that the positive ions, the cations which are formed by the metal atoms after the losing of the electrons, they are floating in a sea of electrons. So you can see there are so many examples of the metallic bonding, as in case of zinc atom. So they lose the electron, 2 electrons, and after losing these 2 electrons present in the s orbital, because this is the transition metals, last member of the first row of the transition metal. 3d10 4s2. Zinc electron, it's 4s2 electrons and forms zinc 2 plus ions. At a time, one zinc atom, it is going to release 2 electrons. So it means if you have a 1 mole of the zinc atoms, then it means they will release 6.02 10 to 23 electrons. So these zinc ions that are formed by after releasing these 2 electrons, you can see that they are looking like the cations, they are floating in a sea of the electrons. Similarly, in case of sodium, which is alkali metal, and it has 11 electron and total, and its valence shell contains just 1 electron. So it can easily release that 1 electron. And because if you have 6.02 10 raised by 23 atoms of the sodium, then it means 6.02 10 raised by 23 atoms in a 1 mole of the sodium. They will release 6.02 10 raised by 23. So much amount of the sodium atoms, they are going to release their electrons. So it means when 6.02 10 by 23 atoms of the sodium are going to release the electrons, so it means they form a sea in which the cations, they're looking like they're floating. So these are 2 examples. There are so many other examples you can see from the literature about the metallic bonding. अच्छा जी, तो आगे चलते हैं हम थर्ड स्लाइड पे आ रहे हैं आप. Sea of electrons. So electrons are free to move through the solid. So metal conduct electricity. This is a property of that metal, they conduct the electricity because of presence of the sea electron. They are freely moving. They are free electrons. So vacant d orbital overlap and allow electrons to move. So vacant electron, vacant d orbital in case of the transition metals, they overlap with each other and they allow the electron to move. So the metal can conduct electricity very easily. As you see that mostly the wires which are used in the electricity, at the main poles, they are made up of just by zinc. So it means you can say that they can easily transfer the electron. properties of the metal. As you know that excellent metals are the excellent conductor of heat and electricity. Solids at room temperature, except we say that the Hg means that the mercury, extremely highly boil melting points, malleable. They're also ductile. You can make the sheets or the wires. So it means you can cut them. There are so many properties as you see, as you can see them in the literature as well. So metals are malleable, means hammered into shape. If you want to bend the metal by hammering them, you can do this. Also, they are ductile, means drawn into wires. You can make the wires, all the wires which are used in electricity, they are mostly formed all over the country, all over the world by the zinc. So both malleability and ductility explained in terms of mobility of the free electrons, the valence electrons. You can see that the malleable force, if you are using one hammer, then you can see that in the figure that you can see it in this figure that after using the hammer, the metal is going to bend very easily. Similarly, there are also, if you are using, you can see malleable. Means mobile electrons, because allow atoms to slide by a sort of like ball bearings in oil. Means if these are just these are the layers of the cations and as well as the metal atom. If you are going to apply the force, then one layer will slip over the another layer. Okay. Properties of the ionic compound, you can see that crystalline structure, repeated patterns of the plus and negative ions, that the crystalline solid room temperature having higher melting points. So they are hard and brittle, they break under pressure. You can break the wires and the metal sheets by using the pressure. Do they conduct electricity? Yes, of course. Conducting electricity means allowing charges to move. In a solid, the ions are locked in a place. Ionic solids are insulators. When melted, the ions can move around. Melted ionic compound conduct means you can see the sodium chloride. If you make a solution of the sodium chloride and pass electricity through this, then you will see that the electric current is going to transfer from one place to another place through the salt of the sodium chloride in the solution form. So they can conduct electricity. So and they move, the ions are free to move and they are molten on the aqueous solution. And thus they are able to conduct the electric current. You can make this as well. By using the battery, you can transfer that electron to the sodium chloride solution. So ionic solids are brittle force. They are brittle. There are strong repulsion breaks a crystal apart due to similar ions being next to each other. Because you know that because here we have one negative ion, other is a positive ion. If you are going to apply the force, then it means the negative ions will be in front of the negative ion and the positive ion will be in front of the positive ion. So similar charges or similar ions, they will repel each other. Similar charges repel each other. So this is the we say that they give the strong repulsion. Due to this repulsion, they are brittle. You can see that there is a network of the crystal lattice of the ionic compounds. Sodium chloride, in which one sodium is surrounded by the 6 chloride ions. So here you can see that the network in one unit cell, you can see that sodium chloride as well. Bond strength determined by the lattice energy. The energy released when 1 mole of an ionic crystalline compound is formed from gaseous ions. Lattice energy K is equal to Q1, Q2 over R. R is the bond length and Q is the ionic charge. So comparing bond strength, if you can compare the bond strength of different compound like a sodium fluoride, magnesium oxide. The reason for this big difference is charge is +2 and -2 in MgO. You can see that in case of magnesium, the charge +2 and oxygen is -2. Higher charge will be equal to stronger bond. Stronger bond, when you have a stronger bond, then melting point will be higher. So it means magnesium oxide has higher bond strength, higher melting and boiling points. Metallic bond strength, higher the positive charge for the metal. Smaller ions will be stronger bond, higher melting point will be given to which will have a stronger bond, magnesium or aluminium. Why? In aluminium will be higher because its oxidation is +3 as compared to +2 for the magnesium. Smaller ion, shorter bond, stronger, that bond also will be a stronger bond. Here there is a smaller ions, doesn't mean that the oxidation state is what? It means smaller ions, if you have done it will have shorter bond. That is a stronger bond. Because smaller ions mean the size, not its oxidation state. So thank you so much. इसको आप लोग इंशाल्लाह देखें तो हम इसे डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. मैं इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग चेक करके तो आपको सेंड कर देता हूँ रिकॉर्डिंग भी इसकी. अच्छा जी.